A cream-colored envelope lay on the kitchen counter, thick, deliberate, almost ceremonial in its weight. At first glance, it could have passed for a wedding invitation. But it wasn't the beginning of something. It was the end. Inside were divorce papers. Crisp, clinical, final. She had tucked them beneath her chipped teacup, as if hoping I'd casually overlook them while reaching for my morning brew. But nothing about that envelope could be ignored. Not by someone who'd once memorized the way she stirred honey into her tea or the quiet hum she made while grading papers. When I finally looked up, her eyes didn't flinch. No guilt. No explanation. Just that same emptiness I'd grown used to. The hollow void where once we'd whispered dreams into the dark. I didn't bother asking why. Already knew. His name was Derek. A bartender at that pretentious little pub on Sycamore where we used to laugh at couples trying to rekindle things over overpriced cocktails. I'd seen him once, leaning against a wall like he owned the air around him. Charm without substance. Eyes that darted everywhere but never truly landed. The kind of man who built his world on illusion and expected others to make it real. She brushed off my suspicions early on. Called him just a friend. Laughed it off like I was being paranoid. Her laugh, sharp, cold, short, left a scar. Still I let it go. Let her think I bought the lie. But the night I glimpsed a message glowing on her screen. Late again. Swing by. Something in me broke. That was the moment I stopped being her husband and became a stranger in my own home. I hadn't always been this hardened. There was a time I used to wake up early just to brew her tea before her classes. When she said sunflowers reminded her of summers at her grandmother's, I built her a shed and planted a whole bed of them out back. Together we built a branding firm from the ground up. She charmed the clients, I strategized behind the scenes. We worked late, celebrated wins, grew a life from scratch. By our second year, we were 6 figures in and dreaming of expansion. But somewhere in that storm of success, I stopped being her muse. She started craving chaos, thrill disguised as freedom. And Derek, he was the storm, the unpredictable, the escape. She began mocking the kind of stability I provided, the very foundation she once celebrated. Then one morning, just before sunrise, she slipped in at 5 a.m. No remorse, no apology, just a shrug. That shrug was her confession. From that moment on I watched, not just her but the cracks forming beneath us. I traced every lie, every late-night errand, every whisper of betrayal. I didn't confront. I prepared. I created a folder on my laptop called Departure Blueprint. In silence, I began removing myself. Transferred my shares from our joint firm. Registered a new LLC. Redirected our top client, Sterling and Vale, under my new contract. Quietly, I installed keystroke trackers. Her messages confirmed what I suspected. She shared every detail of our operations with Derek. He was positioning himself as my replacement. She promised he'd take the reins after I stepped aside. She never noticed the shifting earth beneath her. Too busy playing business with a man who couldn't balance a bar tab. 3 months later, I told her I had to fly to Boston for a potential acquisition meeting. She barely looked up. "Safe travels," she mumbled. Boston wasn't the destination. I booked a penthouse suite downtown. Made a reservation at the bistro, the place where I'd once proposed. Ordered her favorite Chardonnay. Framed the whole evening as an anniversary surprise. She agreed without question. Guilt makes people easy to guide. She arrived in a crimson gown. Hair swept up the way she used to wear it when she still saw me. For a moment, I almost believed in her again. We laughed, shared a meal, touched fingertips. Then I slid a single envelope across the table. She opened it, puzzled. Not divorce papers. It was a full resignation agreement, hers. Already signed by our clients. The board. The lawyers. Every signature in place, except hers, which no longer mattered. Her name had been legally and financially erased from our company. Her voice broke. "What is this?" I looked her in the eye. "A goodbye," she stammered. "You can't do this." I leaned in. "You already did." Then I handed her a printed set of messages. Her words to Derek. Plans to cut me out. Him mocking my routines. Her calling me a dependable drone. Useful until replaced. Her hands shook as she gripped her wine glass. I stood, placed the house keys on the table. It's his now. Along with the mortgage, the unpaid taxes, and your reputation. She whispered. Please. Too late, I said. I walked out. The next morning, Derek messaged me with a lazy threat. Something about legal retaliation. I responded with a scan of the confidentiality clause he'd signed back when I let him do a freelance pitch under our firm's name. A clause that, if breached, carried legal penalties steep enough to bankrupt him. He went quiet. Now I live on the coast. Modest place. Fewer things. More peace. I've learned to live without the noise. Without her. Sometimes I think of the sunflowers. How they withered the year she stopped watering them. Said she forgot. Too tired. Too busy. But love doesn't forget what it cherishes. She did. I didn't.